How are you doing, everyone? We are back on Trust Me, I'm a Biologist. Today we're talking about the nephron, specifically how it does its main job, which is water balance. See, the kidney's job is not actually to filter the blood. It does that as a byproduct of everything else that actually goes on. First thing we got to do is we got to talk about some terminology. The first term that we need to talk about is osmolality. So, the easiest way to think about this is that osmolality basically describes to you the level of water and stuff that is in it. So if something has got a high osmolality, so if osmolality is high, then it's got lots of things in it that are diluted. Now we're talking about the kidney, so the major thing that we're going to be talking about is salt. So it'll have a high salt content, and therefore if it's got a high salt content, it is by definition got a low water content. We would call a fluid that has got these properties a hypertonic fluid. So in other words, it's hypertonic. Therefore, if osmolality is low, it has got low salt content and a high water content. A fluid that has got these properties we would call hypotonic. And therefore, if you've got a fluid that has got salt equaling water, that is going to be, let's do this properly, and that is going to be isotonic. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. Just deal with these for now. So what we're talking about with this is basically the kidney responding to changes in the osmolality of your plasma. Now plasma has got an osmolality set point at 290 plus or minus 5 milliosmoles. So that's the homeostatic set point. So basically, if your plasma osmolality goes above that set point, then your kidney will make small amounts of concentrated urine. If it goes below this, then it will make large quantities of dilute urine. And what this is going to do, by making large quantities of dilute urine, it is going to decrease the water content of the plasma, therefore bringing the homeostatic set point of this back down towards 290 milliosmoles. So what this means is anything, how do I word this better than that? The higher the osmolality, more concentrated. So the easy way to think about this is that distilled water has got an osmolality of 0. So if the osmolality starts to increase, that means the urine is getting, the plasma is getting more and more concentrated, which basically means that you are low on water. So if that happens, you want to make small quantities of concentrated urine, because we want to try and retain all the water that we can possibly get. If this starts to drop, then that means the plasma has got too much water in it, which means we're going to start to make large quantities of dilute urine. All of this is under the control of something called anti-diuretic hormone. You may see this written down as vasopressin. You may hear it as arginine vasopressin. It is not arginine vasopressin, it is anti-diuretic hormone, because this is the easiest way to remember what it does. It stops you from diuresing. Yeah? Anti-diuretic hormone. If you diurese, you get rid of water. Therefore, this is there to make your urine more concentrated. Okay? So, let's have a look at how all of this works. All of this works because of this wonderful little thing called the nephron. Let me delete all of this stuff. Okay, the nephron. It has got some parts to it that are very important in terms of anatomy. Okay, as a matter of fact, let's get rid of all of this. Let's just delete it all. And the nephron is a wonderful example of my favorite thing in physiology, which is where form and function come together. So, in the Bowman's capsule, you've got these things called Plumeria Capillaries. Okay, now let us flip to another slide for a second. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have a little bit of drawing time. So the Bowman's capsule, it's going to look something like this. And then in it we've got a capillary network, which we'll draw in here like this. This is the arteriole that is leading in, and it is called the Afferent Arteriole. And on the way out, we've got the Efferent Arteriole. Now I've drawn it like this, the Efferent Arteriole. I've drawn it like this for a reason. And that is because we want to create pressure in here because we have to drive stuff out. Okay? So we're going to be driving out water and plasma and all loads of just stuff, charged particles, and basically what we're doing is we're just emptying the entire contents of the blood into here, and we're keeping everything inside these capillaries that is larger than 60 kilodaltons. So if it's smaller than 60 kilodaltons, it is coming out. Okay, so we've got what's called a hydrostatic pressure forcing its way out of here. Okay, hydrostatic pressure. Inside here, we've got fluid as well. So we're going to have a hydrostatic pressure forcing back in like that. And we've got particles in here, which means we've got an oncotic pressure moving back in here, or an osmotic pressure. And basically what we need is for the balance of these forces to be a net outward pressure of around about 10 millimeters of mercury. If that happens, the kidney functions. So what we've got with these arterioles is we've got a large inlet and a small outlet. So if you've got a large inlet and a small outlet, it increases the pressure inside here. If the pressure gets too high and we start to force things out of the blood that are larger than 60 kilodaltons, purely because the pressure is too high, then the body will respond by opening this efferent arteriole, dropping the pressure, and bringing it back down to the homeostatic set point of 10. It is a beautiful, beautiful mechanism. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay, so going back, that's what happens in here. The proximal convoluted tubule, it's responsible for the lion's share of salt reabsorption. Now, everybody will say, okay, this is where you reabsorb salt. Where do you reabsorb it? Well, you reabsorb it back into the capillaries. Okay, back into the blood. What actually happens is a little bit of sleight of hand. So you take some salt out, okay, and then we put it back in. Okay, so it goes back in, and it takes about 60 to 65% of the salt out, and then it puts it all back in. Now there's a big rule, okay, with water balance, and that is where salt goes, water goes. And I'll write it down because it's important. So that means if 65% of the salt comes out, and guess what comes out? 65% of the water. And then similarly, that happens down here as well. Now we're going to be dealing with this from a situation where the body has increased the osmolality of plasma. So if we increase the osmolality of plasma, what are we going to do with the concentration of water? That's going to be going down. Therefore, what do we need to do? We need to conserve water. Okay? So if we are diuresing, in other words, we are in water deprivation. Okay? So this whole thing that I'm going to be talking about is from a situation of water deprivation. So that means that we have increased the osmolality of our plasma. Okay, that means it has gone above the homeostatic set point. The highest acceptable set point is 295. So we're going to say that, so we've crossed this, and we're going to say that our osmolality is about 300 milliosmoles. Okay, so that means that in here, the filtrate has got an osmolality of 300 milliosmoles. Okay, so as you go through the proximal convoluted tubule down into the loop of Henle, what happens is we take out a load of salt and then water will follow it. So if we take out water and salt from this, okay, we're going to change the osmolality, but then we put it all back here. Which means that the filtrate, okay, anything that gets dumped into this bit here is called ultrafiltrate. The filtrate coming through the proximal convoluted tubule going down into the loop of Henle has an osmolality of 300 milliosmoles. Now, we're in water deprivation, and the kidney wants to create small quantities of very concentrated urine. In other words, it wants to get back as much water as it possibly can. And when I say get it back, I mean take it out of the renal tubules and put it into the blood. That's what the kidney is going to attempt to do. It's going to do that down here in the loop of Henle. So, the filtrate coming through this bit here into the descending limb of the loop of Henle, okay, into the thin descending limb of the loop of Henle, is going to have, at this point here, a concentration of 300 milliosmoles. Okay, let's forget about all of this bit here. I just wanted to explain to you the little bit of metabolic sleight of hand that the kidney is doing. So the filtrate here has got a 300 milliosmol osmolality. And we want, coming out of this bit here, the collecting duct, which goes down into the ureters and into the bladder, we want it to be as concentrated as we can. Now, we can make it conservatively 1,200 milliosmoles. Okay, so in other words, we can take a lot of water out of this filtrate, a lot. The next thing that we're going to do is talk about exactly how it is that the kidney does it.